Hello, my name's Al and today I'm going to show you how to shorten and reconnect your hose on an Avid or a SRAM disc brake using a SRAM Stealth-O-Majig. SRAM Stealth-O-Majig hose fittings are backwards compatible with old Avid brakes as well as the current SRAM offerings. You'll need two parts for each hose that you're going to shorten. So you've got the small fitting which screws into the hose and the red olive that sits on the outside of the hose. Tools that you're going to require for this are an 8mm spanner, open-ended, a hose cutter or a Stanley knife with a fresh blade in it, a T8 Torx key, some Avid or SRAM dot grease, an 8mm crow's foot wrench if you're going to torque your compression nut, some water in a spray bottle and some paper towels. For ease of demonstration, we're going to show you how to do this on the workbench, but you can do this on your bike, no problem at all. And for determining the length of hose that you need, you're going to have to do that on the bike. So as long as you're careful and you don't drip any brake fluid on any rotors or paintwork or brake pads, then you'll be absolutely fine. Before disassembling your brake, you're going to need to don some gloves, and eye protection would be a good idea as well. We've got an Avid Elixir Trail 7 brake here. If we pull the sheath back from the lever and reveal the compression nut here, as this is a Trail 7 brake, we're actually going to need an 11mm spanner as well. So we can hold this fitting here as we undo our compression nut. On modern SRAM brakes, you'll only need your 8mm. Now most older Avids as well, to be honest. Once you've undone that, you'll see that the two become detached. At this point, don't pull the brake lever because that will just eject fluid out the end of the lever. You're going to have to bleed it for optimal performance anyway, but it saves making a mess. This compression nut will be reused, so you can just push that down the hose and keep that out of the way, keep it safe, and then we can shorten our hose. So on the bike, we're going to want a full range of handlebar movement, and we want to make sure that the suspension can move freely through its travel without the hoses impeding upon that. So check that you can turn the bars fully, and then if you find that you've got excess, then that's when we're going to be cutting the hose down like this. So mark the hose. I often do it just with my thumbnail, dig it into the hose. Always check it a couple of times just to make doubly sure, because you can't add what you've taken off. So yeah, definitely check twice, cut once. Here we're just going to trim a little bit off. Bear in mind that the barb fitting, in this case of an Avid brake, will be screwed into the hose. So that will go in a few mil past this olive. So if you're cutting, then you want to be taking a bit more than that off, otherwise you'll be trying to cut through the barb fitting. We've got a hose cutter here, which makes the job much easier. You can use a very sharp Stanley knife. Whatever you use, just make sure it's a nice clean cut at the end. I've always been a fan of Avid and SRAM's screw-in hose fittings. These Stealth-O-Majigs take things a step further. The olive itself is actually threaded, so the two parts fit together. The olive has a left-hand thread, and the insert, which is here, has a regular clockwise thread, so you're turning it clockwise in order to screw it into the hose. So next step is to add a very small amount of dot grease to these threads, and with our T8 Torx key we're screwing the fitting into the hose. Make sure it goes in straight, apply a bit of force towards the hose to make sure the threads bite and it works its way in. You need to tighten it until this lip is completely flush with the end of the hose. You don't need to do it super tight, just make sure it's flush, or you might find that you have leaks. Once that's done, with a little bit of grease on the threads here, then we can take our olive, and remembering it's a left-hand thread, so we're turning it anti-clockwise to screw it onto the silver fitting. We're tightening it by hand, and you should find that the olive is either flush with the end of the silver fitting in the hose, or about 1/2 mil further on, and that's exactly where you want it to be. With that in place, we're ready to reattach the hose to the lever. Slide your compression nut up to the end of the olive, add a bit of dot compatible grease, and making sure everything's lined up correctly, screw it all back together. Make sure the hose is fully in, and we can start to tighten our nut, in this case held in place with an 11mm spanner also. Check the torque setting for this nut. It does depend on your model of brake, so make sure you get it right. So we don't want it coming loose. And at the same time, if you over tighten it, you could damage your brake. When you're calculating the correct torque using a crow's foot wrench, you want to work out the differentiation in torque that's going to be required, because this is a bit longer. So it's basically an extension of where you would fit a regular socket attachment to your torque wrench. In this scenario, it's probably about 1/2 Nm, but there are calculators online that will work that out. All you need to do is measure the distance from the center of this wrench to the center of where it attaches onto your driver. Once the hose is tight, bear in mind that there will be 2 or 3 threads showing even when it is at the correct torque setting. So don't go over tightening it. Just clean up any fluid with your water and some paper towel, and then you can go ahead, refit your shroud, and then you're ready to bleed the lever. For bleed instructions, please check out our other videos. We have covered it in the past. And once they're bled, then all ready to go out, hit the trails. Thanks for watching. See you next time.